guys, xin chào các bạn, and welcome back to another cooking video. I hope that you enjoyed my last video where I showed you how to make peanut butter oatmeal raisin cookies. But today I thought we'd try to make something a little bit different. It sounds a little bit daunting, but it's actually a lot easier than it sounds. Today we're going to be making bread. Now, the specific recipe that I chose for today is called Artisan Bread, and it's actually inspired by your typical French round loaves of bread, often called boule. But this recipe is actually super simple. It only has 4 ingredients, there's no kneading at all. So this recipe is perfect for someone who's never made bread before, but they're kind of interested in learning, and they want kind of a beginner's recipe into making bread. So this is a great first step for that person who wants to learn. This type of bread is very crispy on the outside and quite chewy and slightly more dense compared to other bread, but that makes it perfect for soups, stews, curries, any sort of dish that maybe requires bread for dipping, but it's also just as tasty toasted with some butter. Okay, so if you're ready, let's get started. So to make this bread, you'll only need 4 ingredients. You will need 3 cups of all-purpose white flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of instant yeast, and 1.5 cups of warm water. You want to make sure that your water is not cold, but that it's not boiling hot. Okay, so now let's prepare the dough. So what you want to do is grab a very large mixing bowl, and all you need is a sifter and a wooden spoon or a rubber spatula to combine all the ingredients together. So all you have to do is simply sift in the flour and add in the salt and the yeast and the warm water, and just stir everything together until everything is combined. It should probably take you about a minute or less, and there's no kneading at all. You just stir until everything's combined. It'll probably look pretty messy. It might look pretty sticky as well. That's okay, that's fine. So now what you want to do is take some plastic wrap and cover the entire bowl with it, and once you've done that, the next step is to proof your dough. Proofing essentially just means letting your dough sit and rise. Some recipes might just say let your dough sit and rise, other recipes might call it the first proof, or they might call it the bulk fermentation, because that's essentially what's happening. Your flour, your yeast, and your water are working together to ferment, which is what causes your dough to rise. So you want to let your dough proof at room temperature, just leave it on your counter, and let it proof for anywhere between 8 to 24 hours. So you could make this before you go to bed, and let it proof overnight, and then in the morning you can bake it and you'll have a fresh loaf of bread. Or you can let it sit for even longer, for up to 24 hours. The longer your dough ferments, the more flavor you'll have. I let my dough proof for almost 24 hours, so this is what your dough will look like. You'll see that the dough has risen quite a bit, and there are a lot of air bubbles in the dough. So what you want to do is find a large clean surface. You can use a clean table, you can use a cutting board, or you can use what I did and use parchment paper. And you want to make sure that your surface is well floured, so sprinkle a good amount of all-purpose flour on your surface. And now just remove the plastic wrap off your bowl and take your dough. You might need a spatula or something to help remove the dough from the bowl, and just place it on your floured surface. So the next step you want to do is shape your dough into a ball. Now, to do this without actually kneading your dough, just gently fold in the corners of your bread until it creates a round shape. Now your dough might be a little finicky because it's quite loose, or it might be still sticky, so just keep adding more flour to your dough as you need. And once your dough has formed into a nice little round shape, then let it sit for another 30 minutes. This is your second proofing, or also known as your final proof. Now in the meantime, you want to get an oven-safe dish. It could be a Dutch oven, it could be any kind of large pot or dish that has high sides to it that is oven safe. And what we want to do is actually preheat this pot. So turn on your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit and place your pot with the lid on into the oven. And by the time that your pot is preheated, it should also have been about 30 minutes since you've let your dough sit. So after 30 minutes, your pot is all preheated and your dough has finished its final proof. So what you want to do next is, with a knife, just slash an X onto the top of your dough. This will actually help your dough when it's baking in the oven. And once you've done that, then take out your pot from your oven and with oven mitts, take off the lid and just brush the inside of your pot with some vegetable oil, or if you have non-stick cooking spray, that works as well. Just grab your dough. It might look a little bit mangled, but that's okay, and drop it into your pot, and then place the lid back on top, and then place your pot in the oven and let it bake for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, take your pot out and take the lid off. As you can see, our bread is baking quite nicely. There's some color that's starting to develop, but we want that color to develop even more. So we're going to bake it for another 10 minutes with the lid off until the top is nice and golden brown. And after 10 minutes, you can take your bread out and just let it sit for at least 15-20 minutes to let the bread cool. And after your bread is cooled, here it is. Wow, it looks so delicious. The outside is nice and crispy and golden brown. The shape is not a perfect circle, but that's fine. And the smell is so fragrant. Okay, so let's cut into this bread. Wow, look at that. You can see that the outside has a beautiful crust, but the inside is soft yet still a little bit dense. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this video might have piqued your interest a little bit into trying a new recipe. And if you've never baked bread before, then hopefully this will inspire you to maybe give it a try. It's not as intimidating as it seems, especially if you follow a very simple recipe just like this one. And if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to this channel down below. And I'll see you next time for another video. Bye!